Greetings, Internet. HeiseNerd here. Welcome to another episode of HeiseNerd Speaks, the program where I sit in front of a microphone with some notes and my thoughts for the week, now part of the DNA Digital Network. Now, thanks to the DNA Digital Network, you'll be able to find this podcast and other podcasts within the network on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and where other podcasts can be found. Now you'll be able to listen to this podcast on your favorite audio device. For more details, look to dnadigitalnetwork.com. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to HeiseNerd Speaks, the program where I sit in front of a microphone and think about the week and some thoughts. This week, we have got a couple of rapid-fire articles that I want to talk about. We're going to talk a little bit about YouTube. We're going to talk a little bit about an Elton John biopic. And then for my main topic, we're going to get a little heavy, and we're going to talk about Channel Awesome and some of my thoughts on the subject, give you a little bit of background on it, and go from there. So, starting off, we're going to talk about YouTube. YouTube is back in the news a little bit. I've read a Polygon article this morning regarding their review process for those that are now trying to have their channels reviewed for the monetization partnership program. Because as of, a few months back, YouTube had set new minimums for content producers to be able to monetize their videos on YouTube, that being 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours viewed. So now many channels have turned in their stuff and now are under review. And it looks like this process is kind of under delay. According to a interview with a community manager named Jordan, and I quote, "This process has taken longer than we initially anticipated, and we apologize for the delays this has caused. We've now grown our review team and are currently moving through pending applications at a faster pace. We know monetization is a really exciting and important opportunity, so thanks again for your patience as we carefully review new applications." It sounds to me like that they've bitten off more than they can chew as a company by having put this out there. And again, I've talked about this. I get why they did this. They had to do something to kind of sift through the garbage, and I get that, but that was already discussed. It just seems to me like that they should have thought this through if they were going to do it this way as far as the process goes. So now we've got people that were already, struggling to get into the partnership program and have finally, put their stuff together to get this done. Case in point is my partner in crime, the real Gino. He just met the new minimums. He got to the 1,000 subscribers pretty fast, but it took him a little while to get to that 4,000 hours viewed. But what's frustrating about it is that as long as it's going to take, that people that are just meeting the minimums are going to be toward the bottom of the list. So, I mean, it's really unfortunate. YouTube needs to get it together. Especially, I think that competitors, particularly Twitch, I feel like they are going to gain some momentum in the light of this. They have Amazon. Amazon owns them. They have the money to back them. If any company is going to go toe-to-toe with Google and YouTube, it's going to be Amazon with Twitch. I think that YouTube needs to get its act together pretty quick, or they're going to suffer for it. And I'll say personally, I mean, I don't have any intent to monetize in either place. I'm not saying that may not be a possibility in the future if this goes somewhere, but that is not my starting point. My starting point is doing what's, I do this for a hobby. This is what I enjoy. So, This talking about this really doesn't focus around me. It focuses around the other content producers out there that are trying to, either make a living from this or are at least trying to make a little bit for their efforts that they're putting in, especially the ones that have been around and have put the miles on to try and, get somewhere with it. We can just only hope that YouTube kind of just gets their act together, figures it out. Moving on, I saw an article on, where was I saw this one? It was via IGN. Looks like Paramount is creating, I didn't even know about this before, but they're creating a biopic on Elton John titled Rocket Man. Good title. And it looks like they've cast their lead role. And THR reports the Kingsman star Taron Egerton is going to play the music artist in a film that'll chronicle John's days at the Royal Academy of Music and his rise in the rock and roll scene in the 70s and 80s. And it's also going to cover his recovery from drug and alcohol addiction in the 90s before achieving international superstar. And Egerton's going to sing the songs himself. I find this interesting. One, I think it's a good casting choice because I think he kind of looks the part. And I also find it interesting that Elton John played a heavy cameo in the last Kingsman film. So this is actually kind of a interesting turn of events. I think Egerton's a good actor. I think that he has plenty of potential to kind of rise up and become something a little bit more. I apologize for the adjustment here. I think that I didn't know he was a singer, so this will be an interesting little bit too to see. So, I mean, that was just a short bit that I want to talk about. All right, so we are going to move on to. I wanted to, kind of start with a couple of light topics before we moved on to my main topic of the day. I'm going to put a disclaimer out here. We're going to talk about Channel Awesome. And I'll give you the background about what Channel Awesome is, but for those that already know, I'm going to put a disclaimer out there. Everything that I'm talking about is either based on what's been posted. Obviously, there'll be things like the background and stuff like that of the site, and there'll be some fact in there, obviously. But a lot of this is based on personal opinion, where I'm talking about. I don't have a dog in this race. I don't have any real connections to anybody from the network. I mean, the closest connection I have is that my buddy Real Gino, he is kind of close with Brad the Cinema Snob, who is a part of Channel Awesome. But even that, that's very loose. Again, it's all about there are some parts in here that are, allegations. Now, what I will say is that most of this stuff I believe to be true. That's, again, personal opinion. I'm just putting, my 2 cents out there and wanting to kind of clear the air and talk about it, just because I think that it's a heavy subject and I think it needs to be talked about. All right, so let me start by giving a little bit of background on the story here, and the cautionary tale of Channel Awesome. So, Channel Awesome is a online media production company based out of Chicago, which was created by Mike Mashad, Mike Ellis, and I'm going to butcher this name, Bhargav Dronamraju, in 2008. And this is following, I guess these guys worked together at Circuit City, and they were laid off in 2007 when all that was going on. And around the same time, a guy by the name of Doug Walker began posting videos via YouTube of a angry reviewer, kind of a la James Rolfe, the Angry Video Game Nerd, but this character was the nostalgia critic, and he would do movies and TV shows and stuff. He was doing this on YouTube, but he was getting slapped with a lot of copyright infringement issues, so he decided he wanted to kind of do things on his own. So apparently he got in line with the Channel Awesome guys, and they decided to create a site called That Guy with the Glasses. So that's kind of the origin story here. For those who don't know, That Guy with the Glasses was created, which is an aggregate site for content producers to post their video material. The content was kind of hosted via Blip TV or YouTube. Blip TV kind of fell through later. I think it was like 2014 or 15 that fell through, but so now it's kind of exclusively linked to YouTube, most of the stuff. But the site at the time kind of gained a lot of momentum and kind of quickly reached about 20 plus producers within a very short period of time. Kind of peaking when they started doing some crossover stuff, and they made 4 different anniversary videos. The first one being kind of like just a brawl kind of video with James Rolfe, the Angry Video Game Nerd. It's kind of centered around him and the Nostalgia Critics feud, quote unquote feud that they were having online. And then they had 3 of their own. And it ended with a third one called To Boldly Flee, where at the end, this is where the site kind of lost momentum. Doug Walker killed off his Nostalgia Critic character because he wanted to try different things. He didn't want to keep doing the same shtick. And that did not go over well, I guess, with fans. I didn't follow... I stopped following Channel Awesome on a regular basis shortly... It was shortly after the first anniversary video. I don't think I even made it to the others. I didn't really watch a whole lot of the other producers on there. There were a couple on there that I was pretty faithful to. I was faithful to Doug and the Nostalgia Critic for a while. Another one being Spoonie, Noah Antweiler. I really enjoyed his stuff. But then... Anyway, they killed the Nostalgia Critic character, didn't go over well, and then they finally decided to revive the character because they knew it wasn't going well, to kind of play damage control. But it lost momentum, and that guy with the glasses site shut down and just rebranded as Channel Awesome in 2014. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the controversy that's going on with this site. Shortly after the 2014 incident, and even a little bit before, producers would sporadically be leaving or be let go without really a whole lot of word about it. Notably, Noah Antweiler, known as Spoonie, was one of them. His was another story. I think his own reasoning was kind of behind his disappearance from Channel Awesome. And that's a producer that's kind of gone, unfortunately, I feel like that he's kind of gone down a dark path. He's not really doing a lot now. And I don't know, there's not much I could say. I mean, I don't know the guy, but I feel like there's probably something going on personally that affects him being able to do his job. The other one being Allison Prigler, also known as Obscurus Lupa. She was let go. And then Lindsay Ellis, the Nostalgia chick, was let go or left. I think they all resigned. But then the most recent stuff started in last month in March, where several of these former producers began basically posting via Twitter on instances of mismanagement and mistreatment by the leaders of the Channel Awesome site, notably Mike Mashad. Ellis and the other guy had already left. Ellis was let go. I think the other guy just left before it really got big. And after the Twitter stuff, some of these producers started leaving, notably Linkara and Todd in the Shadows. And after that, in order to simplify things, the producers started creating a running Google Doc about the stuff they were posting on Twitter for public viewing. That was on April 2nd. And each contributing producer had their own section, kind of with their own allegations. And I probably will go into a couple of those in detail a little bit later. But on the same day as these producers put up this Google Doc, which is basically putting out, you guys are doing a terrible job, you've treated us terribly, and these are some of the things we have to say about it. And I mean, there's talk of misogyny, there's talk of sexual mistreatment and things like that in this, and this is what Channel Awesome responds with. And I'm going to quote this. We wanted to take a moment to clear the air and acknowledge some of the recent public concerns raised by content creators previously associated with Channel Awesome. Channel Awesome is an organization that respects our producer partners and strives to create the best possible environment for everyone. We welcome a diverse community of people joining together to create great videos. For the people who have spoken out about past instances they deemed hurtful or unprofessional, we sincerely regret you felt that way. Our priority has always been to help content partners succeed and provide people with a vehicle to follow their dreams. When the need arose, we have distanced ourselves from people who were particularly callous, letting go of significant stakeholders in the interest of keeping our mission at the forefront. We appreciate and hear the frustrations of past producers. We're actively taking internal steps to better improve communication with our producers so they can be focused on putting out their great content, and we're open to constructive criticism, the kind that can help us become even better and serve the needs of our community. But criticism that isn't a means to a productive end does little for either the party criticizing or those in the line of fire. Our focus now is moving forward with the wonderful team we have and all our dedicated followers. We wanted to make our collective future the best it can possibly be. We thank our content creators, team, and fans for truly making our channel awesome. Here's to creating something even better in the future. And that was their quick response to it. I'm going to note out a couple things that just really get to me about this. That's just like, hey, let's take a PR disaster and let's just make it worse. Notably, for the people who have spoken out about past instances they deemed hurtful or unprofessional, we sincerely regret you felt that way. That is the most non-apology that ever existed. Oh, we're sorry. We're going to blame you. So, I mean, that right there is an issue. Or also this one, this is great. We're open to constructive criticism, the kind that can help us and become even better and serve the needs of our community. But criticism that isn't a means to a productive end does little for either the party criticizing or those in the line of fire. Basically, that's Sam saying, you guys are just trying to slam us, not trying to help us. Even so, if some of them felt they need to, they felt wronged. So, yeah, obviously something needs to be done about it. But anyway, after this post was made, more producers left. And I mean, it's just like exodus of people. Some of the notable ones here were Film Brain and Chris Stuckman. But next is the proverbial nail in the coffin. So on April 11th, Channel Awesome puts out their full response, or so to speak, on their blog. And I'll put some stuff in the show notes for this to kind of let people be able to look at and stuff. Like, I'll probably put a link to the Google Doc. I'll probably put a link to this response that I just read, and I'll probably put a link to the full response because it's pretty long. They're all pretty, especially the Google Doc. This is like probably, it's close to 100 pages of stuff with all these different producers. But anyway, they make their full response, and essentially they start off by stating that the allegations that these people have been making are false. and they take the time to try and attempt to pull the most egregious allegations from this doc and counter-argue them with facts. So it's allegation, fact. Allegation, fact. And the worst part about this is that some of these allegations, or, well, not the allegations, but the facts that they're trying to put out, aren't even that factual. Like, for instance, one of their facts that they put with one of the allegations was that Obscurus Allison had put out that in her line of stuff that she said that the people that worked for Channel Awesome were miserable and they didn't have a great time and they didn't like what they were doing when they were doing these anniversary films. And their fact was, oh, well, listen to this clip of a video of her on a DVD extra saying, oh, this stuff was great and everybody was, in great mood and everything like that. Well, okay. But the big thing about that is that she was on the spot. She's going to say whatever, they want to hear. So of course this wasn't going to be, what it needed to be. I don't know. I just think that a lot of their arguments were not that great. But in light of this, and there's actually some more about this, like I think I said that I'm going to go into a little more detail about. But after this response came out, another just mass exodus of their people occurred. Angry Joe left. Bennett the Sage left. Everybody. The only ones that are left on the website now are the Walker brothers, Brad Jones, the Cinema Snob, and Guru Larry, which is just crazy. I mean, they're just down to like 3 producers basically after all this. So now I'm gonna go and kind of do my thoughts on this, and backtrack on some of the stuff too, to kind of give a little more light. One of the biggest things that came out from this Google Doc and the response that Channel Awesome had was, in the Google Doc they had talked about a sexual deviant that had been active in the company, and they alleged that the company knew about this guy for over a year and were just not doing anything about it. And the victims came forward, and nobody's doing anything about it. I mean, I know the victims didn't want their names out there and everything, which I totally makes sense. But the thing that bothers me is that when they came back around and made their response, Channel Awesome responded, well, it wasn't a year, it was a three-week period, and we've got these screenshots to prove that it was a 3-week period, where we were having these online chat conversations the management was in regards to this guy. Just because they were talking about it within a 3-week period doesn't mean that stuff was happening beforehand. This might have been and this is where the straw broke the camel's back, but the worst problem about this is that they put timestamps on the screen caps that they put out. They had timestamps on there, so of course people are going to see, and an internet sleuth's going to look and see, well, who got let go of Channel Awesome around then. And then also in these screen caps, they had tried to blank out the person's name, but of course they they didn't cover up the first letter very well, and so it made out to be a J, and it was internet sleuth's going to find out, and it was Justin Carmichael, known as G Wario. Justin had been a producer for them, and he was let go around that time, or he had left. There wasn't really a confirmation on what exactly happened, but a year after that, he had actually committed suicide, and of course he was, deified basically, because that's how celebrity is. If somebody kills themselves, they tend to get glorified as long as you don't we didn't know anything about him at this time. The thing that bothers me is that they let it sit for a year. There's a lot of things that bother me about this, really, honestly. I mean, first of all, they let it sit for a year because it'd be one thing if they didn't know about it, but they did for a year and they let it sit. I think it's just it's also shameful that they kind of just let him go. He should have been turned in to authorities to to A, answer for what he did, and for B, to get help. I mean, I didn't follow Justin that much or Juari that much, but given the story and around his death, it sounded like he was dealing with a lot of depression and stuff, and he may very well have been, maybe he was struggling with what he was doing. So people have demons and they let things get the better of them, and then they make decisions based on that being there, and it consumes you. I would say, maybe if they had turned him in shorter after it happened, sure, he would have had to answer for what he did, but maybe he would have got the counseling and the help he needed, and it wouldn't have cost him his life. It also wouldn't have cost the suffering of the further victims that happened, or the fact that, potentially more victims. Because it was a year that it was happening, and then they let him go, and then it was another year before he killed himself. So who knows that in that year he probably was doing more on his own. It's just, it's just really shameful. I'm glad that the victims don't have their names out there. They don't need to, and if people have found out who they are and are harassing them, shame on you. It's not for them, Just everything that Channel Awesome had done was kind of, I feel, I'm not on the inside, so I don't know, but based on what this is showing, and I believe it, that they've got basically a PR dumpster fire, and they need to fix it. I don't know if they can. I think they're at the point where they're not going to be able to fix it, to be honest. And I feel that the producers that are there, particularly Larry and Brad, maybe they have some glimmer of hope that maybe that, this will be a turning point for the channel, and that's why they're sticking around. I would hope that that's it. I would hope that they don't think that the people making the allegations are liars, but I don't know. But also, based on rumor, there's not really any hardcore proof here yet, but little snippets of stuff have come out that make it seem maybe that the Walkers are also kind of starting to part ways with Mashad and Channel Awesome. Particularly because I know that there's something about there is news about on Doug's personal Facebook page. He had put from being content producer at Channel Awesome to worked at Channel Awesome over the last couple days, and then I believe there was another sign. Oh, I think that there was a sign that Larry Bundy put on his saying that he was the current or the first annual champion of the Channel Awesome Hunger Games, making it sound like he was the last one standing. But it's hard to tell because, if you go to the Channel Awesome website, there still is content coming up over the last couple days. A Nostalgicratic review had come up. A couple of Brad's videos have been posted, so I don't know if that's just being done by the infrastructure. But I would hope that the content producers see a PR disaster and try to get away from it. I just look at this as a cautionary tale in the end. When you jump into something and you're new at it, which these people were when they jumped into doing and creating Channel Awesome, and that guy with the glasses, they were new at this. The whole idea of internet reviewing was new at the time. I mean, this was 10 years ago. This was like maybe within a year or two of when people like James Rolfe were starting to do their stuff. And, YouTube and, internet content like this was not a real thing. And it just blew up so fast. But they didn't get the, it's not, it blew up fast, but it's not the kind of thing where it blows up fast and it makes a ton of money, I think. So, I mean, they didn't have the resources and the knowledge, to make it happen. And I think that they should have done better about getting consultants maybe involved. I know they had lawyers and stuff like that, obviously, because you have to do that. But when there was issues amongst the producers and stuff on there, I think that they should have gotten somebody from the outside to kind of work as a consultant and try and fix their issues, rather than it be like this. It's I'm of this generation. I'm the same age as most of these producers were, and I'll be the first to say that we're a generation that will speak our minds via social media readily. And when Twitter, when you got back and forth between these different producers, stuff gets lost in the mix too. It's really a shame. And I don't know. I mean, granted, this is obviously the going to be the turning point, but would this have continued being viable? Because, I mean, at this point, that guy with the glasses didn't survive, and it became just Channel Awesome. But really, people weren't. I mean, I know that I wasn't going to a website like Channel Awesome anymore to get content. Places like Screw Attack, things like that, were similar at the time. But nowadays, everybody's just posting their stuff via YouTube, Twitch, etc. directly now, because these companies wised up, and well, to some extent, YouTube still hasn't wised up apparently. But they've come up with ways of working with people to partner with them, and now instead of having to go from the back end through another website, they don't have to anymore. So I mean, there's really no point for these aggregate websites anymore, it doesn't seem. I'm not in on the scene, so I don't know for sure. But I think that you have that in the mix of what's going on now, and it's probably time to just call it a day. The sad thing is that there's going to be a lot of, I'm sure, legal mumbo jumbo with the Walkers and Mashad because of IP. Because apparently Channel Awesome owns the Nostalgia Critic IP. So, of course, Doug's going to want that. That's his. He created it. But now, rather than owning the complete rights to it, he's going to have to work through court systems and a bunch of garbage to be able to get that if he wants it. And I feel sorry for these people to some extent. I feel sorry for the victims that had to deal with the stuff. I feel sorry for the only one I don't feel sorry for is Mike Michaud, to be honest. That's a businessman who should have freaking known better. But you know, Doug and Rob, I think, I don't know. I guess I don't know how I feel, because I mean he did post the link on his professional Facebook page to that response when it came out on the 11th. I don't know if maybe he just by some crazy chance thought that this was going to be what convinces people, but obviously, and maybe he was doing it again to save face, because he's still he's still Michaud's boy, I guess. I don't know. I feel like they made so many just egregious mistakes as management. I mean, again, this is all personal opinion. This is all speculation, some of it. I'm not in it. All I know is from internet rumor, from this Google Doc, from what people have responded with. Some of the producers have responded via videos and things. I've followed Obscurus, and I've followed Mars Girl, and she's actually put quite a bit of stuff out recently, getting her mind, speaking her mind about it. And I feel as though I'm sure that these people were wronged. When you have an amateur company like this that doesn't know how to handle production and things like that, I mean, it's a recipe for disaster. I guess in closing thoughts, I hope the best for those that were involved with Channel Awesome, besides Mike Michaud, because that guy needs to go. But yeah, the others, the Walkers, they made mistakes, and I hope they can dust it off and they can move on. And I hope that they can kind of rekindle a relationship with the former producers, and everybody can kind of just move and go their separate ways. They, of course, they're not going to be friends, and they're not going to, get together again. I mean, they were wrong, but I would just hope that at least, they can be civil online once again amongst one another, and, that we could see some good content individually coming out of these former producers. I know I've made my efforts to start following some of the lesser knowns that were on the site. I feel bad because I kind of felt like I followed, like I said, I followed Nostalgia Critic, I followed Spoonie, and I followed Angry Joe to some extent. I follow Brad now, and that's mostly through Gino. And I know that, and speaking of that relationship between Gino and Brad, I don't know. I mean, I ask him how, that goes to some extent, but we don't talk about that a whole lot. And I know that he really hasn't talked about this subject with Brad, which makes perfect sense. I wouldn't blame him. I wouldn't do it either. Yeah, I just would hope the best for them. And I'm gonna close off here on this subject. I just wanted to get my thoughts out about it and speak my piece a little bit about it. But we'll move on to quick announcements and things like that. All right, thanks for listening, and thanks for those that have subscribed to the channel. I do have to apologize for I know I've been putting out a lot of live stream videos, especially like really, really short ones every once in a while, because I'm still trying to play around with my live streaming apps that I've been using. I've finally gotten one that I'm playing with most. I got into I started with XSplit Gamecaster is kind of the one I played with the most, and now I'm on XSplit Broadcaster, and I feel like I've had the most ease of use with that one, so I'm sticking with it. Now it's just I've been playing with the settings on it and stuff to try and have the best stream that I can, because I want to have good content for those that are watching the stuff. And, thanks for bearing with me. I also know that I've been doing a lot of Torchlight 2. It's a longer game. I threw King's Quest 1 in there. I'm going to try and throw some other stuff in there to break up the monotony. I do enjoy doing the live streams a little bit more than the Let's Plays. For one, I'll just be right out there. It's less work, because I don't have to worry about putting it into a film editor and putting all the stuff together and then uploading it, whereas I can just stream and it uploads on its own, and I'm fine with that. Let's see other things. Thanks to those that have subscribed to the channel. I'm sitting at 29 right now. If anybody's listening to this and knows anybody, I would like to be at an even 30. I know that sounds like I'm asking not much, but, someday I'd like to see that 3-digit number, that I hit at least 100, and I'd be happy with that. I don't need to be anything huge, by any stretch of the imagination. This is a hobby for me, and I just enjoy what I'm doing, here in front of a microphone, here in front of a TV screen, playing games. It almost kind of harkens me back to back in the day. I used to hang out with friends as a kid, and we would take turns kind of playing games and watching each other, especially one-player games. And it kind of brings me back to that too, because I sit and watch live streams of other players and stuff, on top of doing my own, so I feel like there's a little bit of a sense of community there, and it's pretty fun. I do probably intend to also upload another HeiseNerd Sings in the next week or so. I've got some in the can from that I had put onto Clip It, so I might throw some of those up, just because they're easy access and they're already edited, and I've already sang the song, and they're pretty, a couple of them are decent. I'm not a great singer by any stretch of the imagination, but I do enjoy putting that up there in case somebody wants to listen to it. Also be on the lookout for the GB3 podcast, which is a podcast I do collaboratively with my partner in crime, the real Gino. Our next episode is going to air this week. I believe we're going to be talking about cord cutting. Is it going to be, is it really that frugal of a decision anymore? Are we really saving money cord cutting or not now? And that we're going to kind of dive into that a little bit this next episode as the main topic. And if you haven't subscribed to the GB3 or the Geek Be Cubed channel, definitely hit that up. Get on YouTube, look up Geek, the word Geek, space the letter B, and space the word Cubed. And we should be right up there. We've been doing our weekly podcast, our bi-weekly podcast, I'm sorry. We're hitting near episode 8 of that, and then we've also done a collaborative Ready Player One review. Also, I did have a live stream of Dungeons and Dragons Tower of Doom that I did with Gino. Just go down the list; it's down there. A couple weeks back. Wow, I'm just kind of rambling on. On final notes, just again, thanks for listening. Also, just again, want to thank our friends at the DNA Digital Network, my buddy Dennis and Gino. We can't be thankful enough for Dennis and his effort at getting us up, because by using the DNA Digital Network, you can find this podcast and others on the network on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and other places where podcasts can be found. So you'll be able to listen to this podcast and the others on your favorite audio device. Please look at dnadigitalnetwork.com for more details. I'm going to go ahead and sign out, and I will catch everybody on the next episode of HeiseNerd Speaks. Thanks again. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch everybody next time around. HeiseNerd, out.